Okay, today we are going to talk about UTM trackers. We are going to talk how to track Facebook ads, emails, and non-web documents. Now, why is this important? Let's go over the history of UTM trackers first. So here is essentially how to look at it. Lead source, small brain. Lead source, UTM tracking and channel tracking, slightly bigger brain. Lead source and UTM tracking, slightly bigger brain. Sorry. Okay, we will restart from here. Okay, let's talk about UTM tracking today. Why is UTM tracking important? Because when you look at your Google Analytics, you want to report actual data. You want to track attribution. In Facebook and your Google Analytics, or even if you're selling e-commerce online, the number of orders in Facebook is sometimes different than the number of orders that you see in the real store. And you want to track everything properly in one central location. Whether the emails convert your orders, whether social media does it, whether follow-up remarketing does it, you want to do proper attribution. And the central location to do all of that is Google Analytics. And the only way Google Analytics knows what's going on is when you're sending UTM trackers. So we are going to go over the history. We are going to look at why they are important. And then we are going to look at how you can structure a system that you use for all your channels. So if you're ready, let's get started. So think of UTM trackers as additional attribution data. So if you just track the lead source, small brain, lead source plus UTM tracking, slightly bigger brain, lead source, UTM tracking, channel tracking, even bigger, and lead source, UTM, channel drill down tracking, super power. So UTM tracking actually allows you to do all of these things, and I'll show you exactly how in this video. So let's keep going. If you log into your Google Analytics account, you are looking at this data, and this data is particularly useful. A lot of it is not being tracked, so you only get direct. You don't know where it is coming from. Googleplex.com. Now, Googleplex typically means someone in Gmail clicked your email, right? And then there's sites.google.com/referral. You have no idea what's going on here. Analytics.google.com/referral. Is that what it is? I don't know. Now, these are all probably some similar sites, or at least things that you don't know, but they have been structured here, all lumped because of different domains, but they're coming from same source. Here's another example. m.facebook, l.facebook, lm.facebook. All of them probably come from the same source and probably from a paid ads account. And yet you don't see that here because you're not using the tracking. You're not tracking the data correctly. So how do you fix that? First of all, let's look at it that what is a referrer? Remember, all of these are referrers. What we are trying to track here is a referring source. Where is the referral coming from? Where did the click come from? Where did the order come from? Where did the user progressed that came from? So that's kind of the idea here. Now we'll come back to this referrers in a while, but let's come back to UTM. What does UTM stand for? UTM stands for Urchin Tracking Modules. Back in early days of the web, Google was just trying to find its way. Google Ads had not yet been launched. Google was not really monetizing. They were just powering search. Urchin launched something called Urchin Tracking Modules, where they were taking the web logs of a website and analyzing them to produce a report. In the golden days of the internet, in the nascent stages of the internet, and I can tell because I was part of it in 1997, 1998, you would download your server logs and then you would load them into a platform like Urchin to understand where the users are coming from. Now, here's a typical dashboard, what Urchin used to look like in those days. So if you see, this is visitors from each date, and then you could see the summary, hourly graph, etc. All of this data came from weblogs. So that's how old Urchin is. Google acquired Urchin, but never changed the UTM trackers. So the UTM is still a system that is in use worldwide, and there was no reason to change it. On the contrary, if they had changed anything about UTM, the tracking would have stalled. The tracking would have gotten killed because anyone that was sending UTM trackers, Google Analytics would not have understood. And therefore, they retained that model and then continued to build on that model with GA4, which we are going to cover here. So now what can you track? You can track several things. You can track your Facebook campaign names, ad sets within the campaign, ads within the ad set, email campaigns, social media posts, organic content, day-to-day interactions on LinkedIn. You can track anything you want. Now without UTM, think of it like this. GA will tell you that the sale came from email, but it won't be able to tell you which email it came from, which email contributed to the first click versus last click, and if newsletters are contributing to more traffic and less sales versus any other channel. So all that analytics, you spend 3 hours every week talking about a newsletter and probably 2 hours every week discussing campaigns. But if it turns out that the newsletter does not really do anything when it comes to traffic or conversions, you might want to slow it down and focus more on campaigns. Now that cannot happen unless you're tracking them separately. I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you have not really considered that option. At least 90% businesses that we work with do not have this implemented before they start with us. So now you can, for example, even within emails, you can classify whether an image or a text link was clicked, whether it was a button or it was text, whether it was an image, what kind of text was used, whether it was top of the email, bottom of the email. So you can track all these values with different parameters. So that's how UTM trackers help. So the most important part, remember I told you, remember referrers. If you don't include a referrer, if you don't include UTM trackers, this is what your referrers look like. But when you include the referrers, then they are overwritten. They overwrite the original referrers. So this way you can control the data that shows in your Google Analytics account and therefore gives you the accurate, appropriate reporting. One thing to note here is, for example, and at the end of this video, I'm going to share a spreadsheet with you that you can make a copy. It is a UTM generator. Enter a URL, enter the parameters that I'm going to show you in this video, and you would get a fully functional URL at the end of it. Now that URL you could include in a spreadsheet directly, or for example, I'm giving you a spreadsheet, right? Now in that spreadsheet, if I was giving you a link to my website and you clicked on that link, Google Analytics will not be able to track where it came from. It will lump it as direct traffic. But if I was using UTM trackers, I would include those UTM trackers in a way that I can track that this particular lead magnet, this particular spreadsheet or PowerPoint slide contributed towards the actual conversion or actual click on my website. So desktop email clients like Outlook and Thunderbird don't send, or they are sometimes referred to as direct traffic. Instant messengers, you send someone a link on Slack, Google Meets or Hangouts, Facebook Messenger, Slack, Skype, WhatsApp, they don't generally track properly. They are lumped as direct traffic in Google Analytics. So that is an important distinction. Now we are going to go into specifics of how many UTM parameters are there. So before we'll cover that in a minute. There are original 5 parameters, which are UTM source, medium, campaign, term, and content. Then Google has added these 3, the campaign, not the campaign ID, the source and platform ID, the creative format, marketing tactic. And I think ID was added separately. I'll check. I think I'm slightly confused about these 2, but I'll come back to that. But in the meantime, and in any case, we are not going to use the ID field anyways. It's only used when you have to manually upload conversion data into Google Analytics. So if you're a business that runs it, definitely check in with me after this video and I'll share that with you. So these are the 3 additional UTM trackers Google has introduced in GA4. But currently they're only reporting on source platform. They're not reporting on creative format. They're not reporting on marketing tactic. They have plans because GA4 is a living, growing organism. So they have plans to implement it. Just when, we don't know that. So typically UTM trackers work with a key value pair. So the key is source, value is Klaviyo. Key is medium, value is email. Key is source, value is Facebook. Key is medium, value is social. So essentially any of these elements can be created as far as a key value pair is concerned. Key is medium, value is organic. Key is medium, value could be PPC. So anything that you decide how your traffic comes, how you spend money on advertising and marketing, and based on that, create your own trackers. And I'll show you that in a spreadsheet that I go from here. So this is your typical implementation. Let's look at this URL step by step. I know this looks overwhelming, but if you look at it, it's fairly straightforward. This part here is the URL. After the question mark, you start. UTM source is Google. Medium is CPC. So now typically this is the URL I would use if I was running Google CPC ads. Where? And we'll come back to that. Campaign, spring flash sale. So I'm running a spring flash sale for my business and I'm advertising on Google search for this. So the UTM source platform is search ads. See how I added the UTM source platform? Because I could add video, I could add display, I could add something else like network ads. So the source platform basically refers to the specific platform. If you go to Facebook, for example, you have Instagram and you have WhatsApp and you have a bunch of other things. So you could use the UTM underscore source platform value there. And then UTM term, affiliate networks. This is the term I'm bidding on. UTM content is banner 2. UTM creative format is animated GIF. And UTM marketing tactic is remarketing. So anyone that came to my website on the affiliate marketing page but has not yet signed up for my affiliate marketing services is being targeted with this ad on Google. So now my audience is on Google. I'm basically using this link to track those users. So if conversion happens from here, we know that this specific ad was responsible for that conversion. That's the objective of a UTM tracker. Now remember, very important factor. UTMs are case sensitive. Always use UTM underscore source, not capital U. Facebook is not equal to Facebook. If you send Facebook with a small letter F in one and Facebook with the capital letter F in the second link, it will track them as two separate sources. So always be very careful about how you build those links. And that is why a spreadsheet is essential. A central location where you maintain every single URL you have ever created and how to avoid getting into the case sensitivity issue. I'll show that to you at the end of this conversation, at the end of this video. And they can be in any order. For example, you could have the UTM tactic as the first thing, source as the last thing, source platform as the middle thing. It doesn't matter. They can be in any order as long as the structure is key value pair. Everything is good. Now in theory, you can send any value. In practical reality, however, as I said, you should have a well-defined system of assigning values, because think of it like this. You're running a spring promotion, you're running a Mother's Day promotion, for example, and you've planned social media campaigns, organic. You have planned paid media campaigns on Facebook. You have planned a Google CPC campaign, and you're planning email marketing campaigns. Now the campaign is the same, Mother's Day, May 2024. But if your social media team is using capital M with a hyphen, and your email team is using all small letters, and your Google team or Google ads have no spacing in between, just one word, you will have a mess at your hand. You will no way be able to determine how did the actual campaign perform if in Google Analytics by source of traffic if you do not do that. So always remember to have a system and a central location where all campaign IDs, all source values, all traffic values are centrally stored and used. So UTM source Facebook versus Facebook will create two separate records in GA4 while your traffic actually came from one single source. So this is something to keep in mind when you write UTM values. One specific value, as I said, about the UTM underscore ID. This is generally only used when you're manually uploading data in Google Analytics. What happens is, let's imagine that you have a physical store where you're selling smartphones and you have a online store as well. Now someone, and you accept exchange of old phones. Now your visitors came to the website, came from a traffic source such as Google ads. They looked at your website, they liked it, they booked a call or they booked an appointment with you because they wanted to show you the phone. They needed a repair as well. Now when they come to your office, you was able to convert, but they had booked a call from an ad. So now when you convert that user, there is no way for your website to know that that conversions happened. What you do is you download that conversion data, upload it in Google Analytics. That is where the ID, the campaign ID comes in. So you can track the campaign ID, and this campaign ID will be similar to the campaign ID that you're using for your overall marketing campaign. So you know which campaign contributed to how many physical store visits. That's just one example of the implementation. There can be many examples, but that's just one way to start. Now, this is a typical example of a spreadsheet. I know we should have come to this in the end, but I wanted to get your eyes on this thing so you know what to expect in the next few screens and next few minutes of this video. So typical use case, you want to create an email campaign. You want to send it using Klaviyo. So the source will be Klaviyo. Medium is email or SMS, whichever one you're using. The campaign name, September 24th flash sale. ID, campaign ID can be, wherever you see these brackets here, imagine that I'm expecting the platform to embed them directly. So campaign ID could be Klaviyo campaign ID so that it is tracking there. The term, whatever term you're using is technically in emails, we use segments in this particular section. Which segment was this email sent to? This way we would be able to separate our conversions or our performance in Google Analytics at a segment level. Content, what was the content of the CTA? Did it have the button have a shop now text? It had a buy now, purchase now, whatever that was. So you can include that information here. Source platform, we don't recommend using anything on email campaigns, at least email campaigns. Creative format, button or text or static image, marketing tactic, retention. Excuse me. For an automation, you could use something like this. Pause the screen. I don't want to waste your time going through everything step by step. Facebook ads, you could use something like this. Now, these are dynamic values inserted by Facebook directly into your system. Some of these values you will define and store and save in that spreadsheet that I talked about. Let's keep going. So now let's talk about them. So these values one by one. UTM source. Traffic source of a campaign, typically where the traffic originates. So it could be Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Klaviyo, wherever the traffic originates originally. Source can be two categories. It could be system defined or user defined. Google has a way of tracking Klaviyo. Google has a way of tracking Bing. Google has a way of tracking Google. So Google does have a system definition for majority of sources. Where it does not, it simply calls it direct. So the point is you can override system defined with user defined. So while it's okay to start with system defined, don't stick there. Don't stay there. Always make your own UTM trackers wherever possible. There is also a way to customize. It's not part of this video, but we will record that at some other time where you can actually customize within Google saying, hey, if you have this or this source, because you will still get direct traffic. It's not that you can link everywhere. If you gave a hyperlink to someone, if you are link exchanging with someone and they did not use UTM trackers, then Google will probably take this as referrer or some other source. So you can lump them together, but that's for another video. Now, when you change the value of the source manually, like in an ad and use Facebook instead of Facebook or linked-in instead of LinkedIn or the other way around, GA4 will consider it as a new source. So it's important to note what you're tracking. And I can't stress the importance enough within a central spreadsheet. You want to use your own style convention. Be very sure that you use consistent style convention at the start of setting up this document, which means that when you're actually looking at setting up the spreadsheet for the first time, be sure that you include these instructions in that spreadsheet for everyone to follow. And always document all values ahead of time in a central location so that everybody in the marketing team can access that location and create their own URLs. Now, continuing on the user UTM source, now we're looking at the user defined. Since GA does not have built-in, you will need to manually add some of them. So for example, if you're using Taboola and you're running ads on CNN via Taboola, then instead of putting a space, use a plus sign. This is the right way to do this. This is the wrong way to do this. Sometimes this could break the URL and you may not be able to track anything beyond this, and you don't want that. Sometimes HTML conversion of this space will happen. Sometimes it will break. So you always want to give all the values ahead of time. So this is the correct way to use the UTM underscore scores. This is not. Just keep this in mind. Now the reports, go to Google Analytics. There is a couple of places I'll show you the report, but otherwise in Google Analytics, you can access these reports under the reports/acquisition/traffic acquisition section and select source here. So you'll be able to see the reports directly from the source. So these are the three core areas as far as source is concerned where you can find these reports. So these are some examples of session source here or first user source here or the overall source here. So this is how you track these reports. Now let's look at the medium. Traffic medium is, again, can be user defined or system defined. The medium will typically include within the source, what was the medium? So was it paid email, email? So for example, within affiliate marketing, a medium could be affiliates, but source could be different affiliate. So that's why you would use a fixed value in your spreadsheet and use it from there. Reports, again, in same situation, just add a dimension here and include the medium. So now it will start showing both of them together as a combination. So as you can tell, Klaviyo flow, Klaviyo campaign. This is the result of UTM trackers being used correctly here. Campaign is always user defined generally. So Google does not know what campaigns you're running unless you're actually running paid ads, in which case Google will probably add your campaign name or campaign ID there. But once again, try and create the spreadsheet first, campaigns later. So you can take the campaign name from your spreadsheet into the campaign URL in Google. So campaign names, again, whatever nomenclature works for you, that's fine. As long as everyone on your team, every team on your marketing side uses the same structure. So if you see in the last one, I'm using the example name of Facebook campaigns to track traffic and conversions against each of them individually. Campaign, if it's using email automation or triggered emails, use the following method. So this is how you can use in the campaign field. So we know that which specific flow is it being tracked from. In case of campaigns, you will obviously use the campaign name, whatever the name of the campaign was. Term. Now the term is also user defined. In paid advertising, obviously Google will add the keyword that the ad referred to, the click referred to. But for email campaigns, you can use the segment ID. And for automation flows, use the email number in the flow sequence. So every flow has about 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 emails. So UTM tracker value of UTM underscore term should be the number of email, the third email, fourth email, fifth email, etc. This way you will be able to know how far along the user went before they converted and how many, if you just looked at that specific flow. So that specific flow is being mapped with this value, campaign value. And then which email contributed to how much conversion, you can simply look at that data right away in the system. For paid social, the ad set name can be added in the term. So UTM underscore term would be equal to the ad set that you're using in Facebook or Google or TikTok. UTM underscore content generally is the copy of the ad. So Google will once again include this itself, but in the email side, you can use the actual text or the actual CTA that is being used. For Facebook, use the actual ad name here. So you know which ad resulted in that click or the conversion. Source underscore platform, we already discussed. If you use Google Marketing Platform, you can advertise on search, display, shopping, video ads, etc. So you'll include it that way. So these are fairly flexible terms. There is no rocket science or there's no hard and fast rule that you can use one and you can't use other, as long as you have defined it in a central location so that everybody uses that same terminology. So that's kind of how you use the UTM trackers. Now on to you. The link would be below this video. Click and then make a copy. Now this is going to be using some script. So I'm going to show you how this works. So when you click on that link, you will come across a screen that looks like this. Make a copy and the script file and functionality will also be copied. It's a simple app script that will allow to basically generate the UTM trackers automatically. Now here's what I've done here. If you see this one here, this is actually, I'm not using this. I'm just using drop downs here. So source values, you can use any values and you can add it here and add as many values here, so that it will always be consistent. So when anyone is using source values, they'll be here. So instead of typing something manually here, if you just use this kind of a format, what would happen is your team will always take the drop downs and not the other way around. They will not manually type it. So therefore, there is much less chance of error. So keep that in mind. Now here's how this works. Typically, you will, let's say, paste a URL here. Let's say the URL is and when you go here, could be Klaviyo, this could be paid email, add anything here. Now this should be a drop down, but I'm leaving it open because I don't know what campaigns you run. You will have to manually add the drop box here and then you will have to add the value. So you will have to say March 24, Mother's Day, whatever you want to call it here, that's fine. And let's say done. So now I can select March 24 Mother's Day here. There we go. Now your entire team can select this without worrying about this at all, right? So what is the term? So all the things that we discussed, let's call it the term test dash terms. Whatever you use spaces here, etc. It will always turn it into one word, by the way, just so you know. And test dash content, test dash source platform, test dash creative format, test dash marketing tactic, test dash ID. Now look what happens here. Here in this, all you will do is copy this and bring it here. I could have brought it here, but this loading would have taken a long time. So now that it's here, you see this URL, let's copy this URL and check it out. Here we go. everything is included here. All the UTM trackers are correct. So you would simply copy it from here and take it to your ad, network, email, wherever you have, you will take it from there. So that is how you will build the UTM URLs, and everything will be centralized. This is the central document that I was referring to all through this video. So I hope that you found this video useful. If you have questions, if you have confusions, if you have any other problems, feel free to drop the comments below, and somebody from our team, I would love to help and answer those questions for you.